Hey folks, welcome back to the Contrarians. We have a special episode today. We're going back to our worst of album edition, where we actually agree on a worst album by a band. And we talk about our reasons why or why not it's the worst. We go back and forth a little bit, and then we give our rating at the end. Today, we're actually going with Rainbow. So, Rainbow was actually our first ever episode that we did, where we did our regular Contrarians thing where one of us is in the hot seat. And in that episode, Martin Popoff picked Down to Earth as his favorite or the best Rainbow album, which I disagree with. But interestingly, after we filmed that episode, I found I was listening to that album for like a month after that. So that one actually went up on my list quite a bit after we filmed that episode. For me, I would say definitely the best three are the Dio years for me. Rising, Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, and Long Live Rock and Roll are my three. That's Rainbow to me. Today, the album that we picked as the worst is Difficult to Cure from the Joe Lynn Turner era. I'm not a big fan of the Joe Lynn Turner era. I've tried to get into these albums on more than one occasion because I love Rainbow. Although there is one I favor more than the others in those with those three. I just find in general the albums just feel kind of flat to me. Not that the notes are flat, not that they're hitting flat notes, not that the performances aren't very good, just that in general, like all three albums just don't seem to be very memorable. There isn't anything about them. Like it's hard to explain, but I don't get on a very basic level, I don't get much of an emotional reaction to any of the stuff on any of those Joe Lynn Turner albums. And I don't know why. Like I've tried getting into these albums multiple times and they just don't do anything for me. Right off the bat, Stranger in Us All is one that's up for contention as one of the worst. And right off the bat, I have an emotional reaction to that one right away. Wolf to the Moon, the first track off the album, I like that track a lot. And it kind of reminds me of the stuff that I like, or the style of Rainbow of the early Dio stuff. So for me, Stranger in Us All kind of is a little bit better for me than the Joe Lynn Turner albums for a few reasons, which I'm sure we'll get into. Aerial is another track off that. Like listen to Richie's playing on that. Like it's heavy and it's a little more of the era that I like of the early Dio stuff. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about Difficult to Cure.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I got all kinds of thoughts, Marco.
Well, let's hear them.
My cup is running over with thoughts.
I do have some research and stuff, but I'd like to hear what you say first, and then we'll kind of get into what I found.
Well, first of all, it's great to be back, Marco. It's great to be back.
Thanks for coming back.
Yes. And I got to ask, I've been wondering for a while, when you were a kid and you played Marco Polo and yelled, Marco, did you just go, yeah, what can I do? Something? What?
If I knew I was in a game, yeah, I would. I'd play along. But yeah, a lot of people would say Marco Polo like as a goof, just to make fun of me. But
okay. Well, today we talk about Rainbow, as you said, formed 1975. It was basically for that first album, Elf, which with Richie Blackmore joining. Elf, pretty much. And after that first record, Blackmore kind of fired everyone, but Dio. It's kind of like when your company that you work for is bought by a bigger company, and the bigger company comes in and fires everyone who's been there for years. You know, Blackmore Incorporated came into Elf, and everyone was like, uh-oh. After one album, he said, you're all fired. But with Dio, you kind of get two bands. With Rainbow, you get two bands in one. You get the Dio years, you know, with that neo-classical metal, progressive metal, and then you get the AOR years. So two bands for the price of one. But in my opinion, they went from making timeless music with Dio to making music for the times later on. And there's a difference. So let's get the elephant out of the room right now, because I think most people would say this album, Stranger in Us All, is the worst Rainbow album. And you know what? Before we started to decide to do this video, I would agree. I would say, yeah, this is your go-to for the worst. But you know what? I listened to it again. And you're right. That first song, Wolf to the Moon, it's a banger. It comes on strong right out of the gate. And then Cold Hearted Woman, which has a title that sounds like it's right out of the 70s. is another banger. And you're thinking, this album's going to rock. But then Hunting Humans comes on and you're like, uh-oh. It's going to be one of those albums where the first couple songs are really great and then it goes, nee. But it's kind of like this. It has high points, low points after the first two tracks. Sometimes a single song has high points and low points. But, and A Hall of the Mountain King, I know that's a classical piece of music, but that title, when it comes to heavy rock, kind of belongs to Savatage. I don't think we need another heavy rock song called that. But you know what? It is much better than a 1995 Rainbow album should be. So I'm going to put it as my second to last in my list. It's moved up a notch. But let's start at the beginning now with the debut. And I want to spend just a little bit of time on this record, Marco, just a little bit, because initially we were going to do my favorite Rainbow album, but because you guys already did that in episode number 1, which I watched yesterday, and I got to say, old school video, you guys are in the same room together, side by side. Remember those days?
Very well, yeah.
Yeah, but this is my favorite Rainbow album by a country mile. And I know Martin Popoff, our friend Martin, does not like this album, and I don't get it. He's actually quoted on Wikipedia as saying the album is boring, dated, diluted, and largely illogical smorgasbord of guitar rock stylings with a production that ruins what is already a limp noodle of a record. Oh, Martin. But look, you can believe Martin, guys. Anyone out there? Martin is a reliable source. But Dio himself said this is his favorite Rainbow album. He said something in the realm of there's magic on that record. So you can believe Martin, or you can believe the guy who sings on the record, Ronnie James Dio. It's up to you. But I agree with Dio. There is magic on this album. How do you describe the magic? It's hard to. It's hard to describe where magic comes from anything, a movie, anything. But I have two analogies, and I don't know which one to use. I have the Steven Spielberg analogy, and I have a crystal ball analogy. Which one do you want me to use, Marco?
First, I just want to say it's not just Martin. Quite a few people are a little down on that album for some reason, and I
know a lot of people
why.
are. Yeah, a lot of people are. I don't get it either.
Let's go because I love movies. Let's go with the Steven Spielberg.
Okay. Steven Spielberg has made some magical movies in the 70s and 80s that I feel are just magical. Where does that magic come from? It's hard to pinpoint. This movie is magical because of A or B. It's a little bit of everything. It's the lighting, it's the camera angles, it's the music, it's the story, it's the actors, it's the characters, it's the cuts. And it's hard to just pinpoint one thing out of all of that. It all creates magic. Hell with it. Disco ball too. Disco ball turns, right? Creates magic in a room. You got the light reflecting everywhere and it's spinning and the party's on. Creates magic. Now try to take one dot of reflection on the wall and pinpoint where it's coming from on the ball itself. It's impossible. The ball creates a ball of magic. And that's what this album is. Total magic. Man on a Silver Mountain. Classic. Black sheep of the family. Kind of like a honky tonk. It's performed by hillbillies if the hillbillies were magical elves. Catch a Rainbow. Better than Rainbow Eyes on Long Live Rock and Roll, if you ask me, when it comes to ballads. Temple of the King, probably my favorite Rainbow song of all time. How can you hate that? Down, 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 down. Marco, we all know, well, not all of us, but some of us know that I like to kick it on a Saturday. And I don't always feel like kicking it on a Saturday. So I don't. Sometimes I do. But sometimes I don't, but I want to feel like kicking it on a Saturday. And I just need a little nudge. Temple of the King is my little nudge. Just enough groove, not too heavy, not too slow. It's that nudge going, Laszlo, go to the fridge and get a beer. It's all good. It'll be a fun day. And then 16th Century Greensleeves, one of the two likes. I don't understand why he likes those two and not the rest of the record. But hey, then we come to Rainbow Rising, which is, one of the most important albums in the history of heavy rock. I get it. And I want to show real quick. A few years ago, I was staring out my window and a rainbow appeared right outside my window. And I knew it was going to be there for like 5 minutes. So I started running around, grabbing my phone, grabbing my albums, and I caught this picture. Hope you can see it. It's nice. The rainbow.
That's awesome.
Right over the album.
Very cool.
So yeah, 1 in a million shot. But it is one of the most important albums. But here's my problem with it a little bit. The production is dry. It's very dry. It's like no vermouth in this album whatsoever. Straight vodka. And sometimes it bothers me more than other times. And when it does bother me, it's almost like sandpaper rubbing up against my eardrum a little bit. But I mean, the songs are great. Terror Woman, Run with the Wolf, all great. Do You Close Your Eyes is one of those songs people bring up on this album. Look, I want my Dio to sing about elves, rainbows, wizards and dragons and temples of the king. I do not want to hear him singing about making sweet love to you. No offense to Wendy. But I just don't want that image in my head when it comes to Dio. I would have loved Martin Birch to put the kind of production on this album that he put on Heaven and Hell. I think that's a little pixie dust that this album really would have sparkled with. Then we come to Long Live Rock and Roll, which it's funny. When I was a kid, I always thought this was the second album because just by listening to it, it's a little bit more rock and roll-y than Rising. Rising sounds like it's a band coming into its own, and this sounds like it would have been in the middle. And songs like Gates of Babylon sounds like the blueprint for Stargazer, not something that would come after Stargazer. But it is the third album, Long Live Rock and Roll, the title cut, a little repetitive, but still good. Lady of the Lake sounds like it could have been left over from the debut. Gates of Babylon, I said, is a shorter Stargazer. Kill the King has a little bit of that Dio magic. And Rainbow Eyes, though, I don't know. Do you want to end an album on a 7-minute slow track with no percussion? I don't know. I think I would have put that in the middle somewhere. And then we come to Down to Earth, which is Martin's favorite album. And now you're 2 or 3, I'm guessing, or so, well, 4. Probably your 4th favorite now.
I put it in 4, yeah. Those first 3 are iconic to me.
Graham Bonnet, at the time mostly known for being a singer of Alcatraz. You know, when I was 19 years old, I was in college and I had a Japanese roommate in the dorms. 100% Japanese, spoke hardly any English whatsoever. And his friends would come over and to the dorm, and they spoke some English. And they told me, I'll never forget, that Graham Bonnet is a huge rock star in Japan. And it was the first time I realized, because I was a dumb 19-year-old, that the world doesn't revolve around North America. You can be big somewhere else and not be a big rock star in North America. Wow, it's like I saw the light. One of the few things I remember learning from college, Marco. But yeah, All Night Long almost has elements of early Kiss, dare I say. Eyes of the World has a little bit of that early Rainbow magic. No Time to Lose is okay, but you know when you listen to that going in, if you never heard it before, that's a song from 1979. You're not guessing 1984. You're not guessing 1976. That sounds like 1979. Since You've Been Gone, I am a big fan of the radio hits from after Dio. Big fan of them. I'm a sucker for them, and I love that remake of a Russ Ballard song. But here's the thing about that album. Some albums were meant to be played in the dark alone. Some albums were meant to be drank or listened to while you're drinking some wine next to a candle. This album was meant to be played going about 70 miles an hour in a 1980 Camaro with the windows down, if possible on 8-track. That's what that album was meant to be listened to, or how it was meant to be listened to. Then we come to the star of the show, which in this show, you don't want to be the star, difficult to cure. But I'm going to set aside those notes for now. But once we get into the Joe Lynn Turner albums, which you're not a fan of, I feel like a lot of people kind of mush all these albums together into like one album in their mind. And I hope the glare isn't too bad because I spent a little time on this prop, but it's almost like it's, what did I call this? Difficult to be bent out of shape between the eyes, where it's all three albums into one.
Beautiful.
If you can see, it's hard to see, I know, but I spent time on this too, and the reflections being a buzzkill. You got the guitar going through his surgeon's eyes, and he's wearing the thing there. So yeah.
Send me the image. I'll edit it in.
Okay, edit it in. Good idea. That's why you're here, Marco. But let's go to Straight Between the Eyes. A lot of people like this record. Stone Cold. Absolutely love that song. Love it to death. When my sister comes over, she always needs to hear it. The first song, Death Alley Driver, is pretty close to metal on this album. Tight Squeeze. Oh, man. It's supposed to be sexy, I think. But when he starts singing, give me that tight squeeze, I kind of cringe. Tearing Out My Heart probably sounded a little bit more epic back then than it does now. Mistreated. It's single worthy. It's a good song. Rock Fever gets about as generic as a Rainbow song from the 80s gets. Eyes of Fire. I think I give him an A for effort for trying to write a song that sounded like the early days, but it's not bad. I don't think Rainbow ever did 100% bad album. We're just going to focus on the one that's not as great as the other ones. So yeah, Straight Between the Eyes. Okay. Then we come to this one, and Bent Out of Shape. When I was a kid, a little lad of about 13 or 14, I actually played this album quite a bit. So for me, this kind of rose to the top with the other two Joe Lynn Turners. Stranded, it's a good hard rock song, and a lot of people give this album a lot of crap. I know Pete Pardo put it at number 2, I think. I mean, as the second from last on his list. We did a poll.
7th out of 8.
Yeah, I think a lot of people voted on the poll you put up as the worst album, and I don't get it. Look, it's softer. I get that. But for me, I don't care how hard an album is. I don't care how soft an album is. Write a good song, whether you're Neil Diamond or Cannibal Corpse. Write a good song. Everything else will fall into place, no matter how hard or how light the music is. Fire Dance. I think that scratches an itch for people who want something heavy on this album. Desperate Heart is good. Street of Dreams, another radio hit that I just absolutely love. Drinking with the Devil is a banger of a song. And I love songs about drinking. Even if they don't shed drinking in the brightest light or think it's the best idea, drinking with the devil, but hell, I'll drink with the devil. We'll call Ozzy Osbourne. We'll drink with the devil, and we'll have some demon alcohol. All 3 or 4 of us. So, and that's my favorite Joe Lynn Turner album with Rainbow. I know what my second favorite Joe Lynn Turner album is with Rainbow? Slaves and Masters. It might say Deep Purple, but it's pretty much a Rainbow album. Another album that gets crapped on a lot that I think is pretty decent. It's not their best, but it's pretty decent. So let's get to Difficult to Cure. Why we're here. Now, is it a 100% bad? No, but none of the songs are 100% good. None of them, in my opinion. I Surrender is a cover of a Head East song. It wasn't a great song to begin with. Do they improve it? Maybe a little bit, but the chorus is supposed to be a hook, but I just find it to be flat and annoying. Spotlight Kid, kind of like a hard rocking version of Jukebox Hero or Shooting Star by Bad Company. It's not bad. It's probably my favorite song on the album. No Release. Oh, Marco. Look, I don't know how this sounded in 1981 to people, but in 2021, when he sings, I can't get no release, that lyric has not aged well. If you know what, look, if you can't get no release, maybe you need to take things into your own hands. Literally. You know what I'm saying there, buddy? So yeah, cringeworthy lyrics. Magic. Oh God. This song makes me go like this. And I don't want to be doing this, Marco, when I'm listening to a Rainbow song. Tony, Orlando, and Dawn. Sure. Fifth Dimension. Sure. Rainbow. No. And after that, I need a pick-me-up big time. But what we get is, I'm going to call it maybe next time. I'm not going to try to pronounce the other part of this song. You just get like a laid-back guitar instrumental where the keyboards and guitar kind of melting into one another. There's some interesting guitar parts in the second half, but it's not what I need after that. Can happen here. Not awful. Again, sounds like a Bad Company song a little bit. You know, I've noticed Joe Turner at times can sound like Paul Rodgers to my ears at times. Freedom Fighter. Oh, God. This sounds like something off The Elder by Kiss. And to a lot of you people like The Elder, I'm sorry, that's not a compliment coming from me. This sounds like it should be part of a rock opera, like on stage, where Joe Turner is singing Freedom Fighter and people are like sitting around him on stage and he's looking down at them, reaching his hand out, trying to be a freedom fighter with them. And one at a time, they get up and start dancing and singing with them. And then at the end, they're all freedom fighters. That's the image I get. And you get this lyric in the song. You can't take my freedom. You know it is my right. If you try to stop me, I'm going to fight. With what, Marco? All of my might. Oh, my goodness gracious. Not good. This would be an off Broadway production, like out in the East River. That's how off Broadway. You know, people be with binoculars on a little floating stage. I see the freedom fighters out there, honey. Yep. Yes. Not good. And then you get Midtown Tunnel Vision. You know what? This has dark riffs. And Joe Linner is singing his heart out. And on paper, you go, that's going to be good. It's just okay. It's okay. And then Difficult to Cure, Beethoven's Ninth. The problem I have with this is because we've all heard Beethoven's Ninth 1,000 times, even though we don't know what it's called when we're hearing it. I mean, who keeps track of all those numbers, Marco? Beethoven's fifth and ninth and sixth? I don't. But we've heard it in commercials and cartoons and movies. We've heard it our whole life. So it becomes very bland sounding to our ears, even when it's being played by Rainbow and Ritchie Blackmore. It's kind of like if they just remade Happy Birthday to You. Nothing exciting there. And it kind of sounds like a Christmas song a little bit. And I did some research, and in Japan, they recognize Christmas. They don't celebrate it for religious reasons, but they recognize it as the time of year, joyous time of year, and they perform the song around Christmas. So yeah, it's kind of a Christmas song. And I don't want to blast Rainbow in July and it to end on a song that sounds like a Christmas song. So yeah, you know what? I listened to this album 5 times about in the last week and a half, and I probably will never revisit it. I doubt it. It doesn't even have that one big hit to draw me back to it, you know, like a Stone Cold type song. So yeah, I know. Now look, I know every album, no matter how crappy it is, has that group of people that think it's a misunderstood classic. The Elder, excuse me, got something in my throat. The Elder stinks. So yeah, it's going to have that group of people that think it's a great album, even though it's kind of stinks. So you tell me, I mean, you did a poll. I think the majority of the people picked this one. I think we agree it's this one. I'm not sure where this came in the poll, probably somewhere in the middle tide. But let me know.
Yeah, no, we did do a poll on Patreon. And so if you want to get your voice heard, just join us over at Patreon. Right now, the album that has the most votes as the worst Rainbow album on Patreon is Stranger on Us All. And in a lot of the research that I did, Stranger in Us All is kind of usually at the bottom, if not last. Between the Joe Lynn Turner albums, I have a couple of examples where Difficult to Cure does come in last. But for the most part, I think we're kind of a little contrarian on this a bit. But on our poll, so Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, which is surprising to me, has 2 votes. Rising and Long Live don't have any votes. Down to Earth has 1. Difficult to Cure has 1. Straight Between the Eyes has 1. And I agree with you. My favorite of the Joe Lynn Turner era is Straight Between the Eyes.
Bent out of shape.
Sorry?
I said Bent Out of Shape.
Oh, that's your favorite. Oh, my favorite, Straight Between the Eyes.
Okay.
Out of the 3.
I hope I said it right.
No, you did say you are right. You are right. Okay. Bent Out of Shape has 2 votes. Stranger in Us All has 8. So the comments that we got are Peter Jones said, sorry, even in my endless love for Cozy Powell, can't save Down to Earth. Graham shouts most of his vocals, and live he was a train wreck, just a bad album. Reed said, is it Give Martin Apoplexy Week? I genuinely enjoy every Rainbow album, even the Joe Lynn Turner years. So this is a shades of gray poll for me. I even enjoy Stranger in Us All, but I listen to it less than any of the others, so it gets my vote. Maybe I'll do a contrarian Rainbow chat someday because my favorite album isn't Rising. It's also not Down to Earth. Sorry, Martin. Don says, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just wondering if it's his favorite.
I don't know. He didn't mention.
We'll
have to ask him. Don says, I feel cheated. I should get to pick at least 3 terrible Rainbow albums.
Okay.
Honestly, more than that should be chosen if we are considering the entire album, not just giving it a pass because that's 1 or 2 good songs. Peter Kerr says, Stranger in Us All, the least memorable songwriting of any Rainbow album with terrible compressed production. Doogie's excellent vocals could not save this one. The resulting Rainbow tour forcing Richie's hand to forego rock for a considerable period of time to play minstrel music. John says, I'm going to hide after my post, but I don't think I've ever listened to an entire Rainbow album.
Ooh.
Peter Jones says again, Stranger in Us All is a great album. Doogie White was amazing on that tour. So he's kind of, I guess, disagreeing with the other Peter. So we have a battle of the Peters in the Patreon chat. He was amazing on that tour, and Blackmore was more focused than I'd ever seen him since early Rainbow. The production is very strong and the songs are very catchy and heavier than most of the Joe Lynn Turner era albums. I will take this over Down to Earth every time. So he actually likes Stranger in Us All quite a bit. And I found that I liked Stranger in Us All, but I agree with you that there are ups and downs. Like Stand and Fight. And there is production is kind of maybe the most swampy out of them, even with the Joe Lynn Turner albums. But I just found that some of the stuff that I mentioned reminds me of the style of the early stuff that I liked, even Doogie White's vocals on it. I think he sounds more like Joe Lynn Turner than Dio, don't get me wrong, but his just performance reminded me of things that I liked about Rainbow. And I think he did a good job on the album. There are songs on it like Stand and Fight. It's weird, because it's a mishmash of kind of all the eras of Rainbow for me. Stand and Fight is one of those Joe Lynn Turner type of songs. Wolf to the Moon is one of those Dio type of Rainbow songs, right? So there is kind of a mishmash. It does have its ups and downs, but for the ups are higher than the ups on the Joe Lynn Turner albums for me. Straight Between the Eyes.
The ups on this.
Yeah, Straight Between the Eyes out of the 3 is my favorite because, like you had said, Death Valley Driver's on that one. Rock Fever is probably the worst track on that one, but Eyes of Fire I liked, and Stone Cold, like there's good stuff on it. I think the songs are really good. Bent Out of Shape is pretty good too. And Snowman was the instrumental on that one, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, Street of Dreams, Can't Let Go. So Snowman as an instrumental, I like better than the Beethoven's thing that happened on Difficult to Cure. It's just Difficult to Cure for me is just the worst. And I listened to the album, and this wasn't the first time I've listened to the Joe Lynn Turner era albums.
Right.
I've tried since I've been a fan of Rainbow, which is going back to like when I was in high school. Right. Like I've tried getting into the Joe Lynn Turner era albums several times, and I can sit here and try to criticize it but honestly, it ends up sounding like nitpicking. If I just say, oh, I don't like this one thing on this one song, or I don't like this. It's hard to explain why those albums don't do anything for me, but they just don't. Like just on
They're not the crystal ball creating the magic.
Yeah, and
the crystal ball spinning without any lights reflecting on it.
and it's not that I hate it, and it's not that I think they're bad albums. And as I mentioned, not that I think the performances are bad. I don't know what it is. They just don't do anything for me. I Surrender. Yeah, I guess it's kind of hooky, kind of poppy. I don't know, whatever. And then that instrumental that you mentioned at the end, I felt the exact same way. It's like, why didn't you just do the Star Spangled Banner? Like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that that's not cool. Maybe live, it's a little cooler to hear it. But when
not
you hear,
listen to all the time on an album.
Yeah, exactly. I would have just preferred something like Snowman. Like, just hit me with something, I don't know, a little fresh or new. But I could nitpick the album. It just, on a basic level, I don't feel anything towards any of the three, really. But my favorite out of the three are Straight Between the Eyes. Album cover wise, the Joe Lynn Turner albums have some cool covers. Stranger in Us All, kind of, the packaging on that one is a little weak, but that's not enough for me to say it's the worst. For me, the worst is just Difficult to Cure. In the research that I've done, Sea of Tranquility, I watched his episode, and he put Stranger in Us All last, but he said he liked the album. Bent Out of Shape came in 7th. Difficult to Cure came in at 6th. And then number 1 was Rising. Number 2 was Long Live Rock and Roll. And Straight Between the Eyes was his number 3. So that was his favorite. I think that's where I got a little mixed up. That was his favorite of the Joe Lynn Turner era albums. Return of Rock had Difficult to Cure at 7th, with Stranger in Us All last. Return of Rock had Difficult to Cure at 7th, and they said Blackmore is full of trademark driving riffs, but this is a band effort, not just the lead guitar. Joe Lynn Turner comes in as a new vocalist and immediately hits the right notes, strong and powerful, and a fine example of the classy Rainbow tradition of previous vocalists. The rhythm section is helped by Roger Glover, but also including a new American drummer gives just the right driving force that Blackmore needs. The tracks are almost all rockers, but no release in Midtown Tunnel Vision. Slow down the tempo a bit to give the listener a chance to catch breath. I Surrender did marvelously for a rock track, hitting number 3 in the UK single charts, and it does stand out, but not by much. This is the general high quality, such as the general high quality throughout. Then he had Return of Rock had Rising as number 1, Richie Blackmore's Rainbows 2, and Along with Rock and Roll as number 3. All Music actually gave Difficult to Cure 2 stars, and that was the lowest rating that any of the Rainbow albums got. So Difficult to Cure, according to All Music, was the lowest, or they put that as their worst album. So like Rising got 4 out of 5 stars. And I think Straight Between the Eyes got 4 out of 5 stars. Everything else got like 2.5, 3 stars. Stranger in Us All got 3 stars. And then Difficult to Cure was last with 2 stars. So All Music says, problem is the band never comes up with the right crossover songs. Russ Ballard's I Surrender comes close, but much of the record is fairly undistinguishable, riding on strident melodies and big riffs that are never quite memorable. Which I pretty much agree with that.
Yeah, it's difficult to listen to. And I don't remember any of these songs. I wasn't listening to rock radio in 1981. I was listening to it 1982 and on. I don't remember hearing any of these on the radio. So if they got played, they came and went pretty quickly.
They definitely don't play them nowadays.
No.
That's for sure. I've never heard a Rainbow song on the radio ever, I don't think.
Well, I hear Stone Cold sometimes in Street of Dreams.
Oh, maybe Stone Cold. Yeah. Maybe Stone Cold. The highest charting singles, interestingly, were I Surrender, just from Rainbow in general, All Night Long, and Since You've Been Gone. Those are the 3 highest charting singles from Rainbow. So I Surrender was their highest charting single. Rate Your Music had Difficult to Cure last. So that was another list that had Difficult to Cure as the worst. And Stranger at 8th. And then number 1 was Rising. Number 2 was Long Live. Best Ever Albums has Rising at 1, Long Live number 2, and You See Difficult to Cure at number 6. So they had Bent Out of Shape and Straight Between the Eyes lower than Difficult to Cure, and Stranger in Us All. So basically, like, if you look at some of the rankings lists and some of the aggregate ratings and some of the, we're kind of in the middle, in between some rankings lists that put it worst and some that put it a little bit higher, but it's definitely not topping any of the Rainbow charts.
So it's not number 1 for anyone.
Yeah, and according to our Patreon folks, Stranger in Us All is the worst. According to a lot of the lists, Stranger in Us All is the worst. Although, like I said, Sea of Tranquility put it last, but Pete Pardo liked that album. So, and he's a pretty big Rainbow fan. At the end of the day, again, just on a basic level, and that's what music reviewing is. Like, I'm not a musician and I'm not a critic. So I'm just on a basic level. It's just what I'm having as an emotional feeling towards something.
Right.
As more of a casual music fan than somebody like Martin Popoff, who gets all analytical and he's written all these books and he's very knowledgeable about a lot of things. Just on that.
We're just a couple of schmucks trying to figure out the world, Marco.
Yeah. If
experts on anything.
If I like something, I like something. And when I really like an album, I'll play it over and over again. When I really like a song, sometimes I play it on repeat if I really like a song.
I haven't done that in years.
Yeah. Difficult to Cure, for the most part, is it plays through and I'm listening to it while I'm listening to it. And then it's just, I have almost no reactions to it. My heart rate doesn't go up at all at any point. You know, I don't feel emotional anywhere during that album, and it doesn't do anything for me. And that's not to say that, you know, anybody, Don Airey or Roger Glover, I'm not blaming anybody for this, you know, Roger Glover, Richie Blackmore, like, you know, I find that I agreed with that review about Stranger in Us All from Patreon, how, you know, maybe Stranger in Us All, the vocals are good and the playing is a little more inspired than it was on the Joe Lynn Turner era albums. And that's kind of where I'm at. I like the really early stuff, and I kind of dig Stranger in Us All for being a 90s album and for what it is. There's things I dig on it. But yep. I think I've pretty much put my point across. And anything else you have to say? Or
Difficult to Cure, it does give me a certain kind of emotion, but not the kind of emotion they were hoping for. Frustration, is that an emotion? You know, I don't know. So
what would you give it out of 10?
Oh my goodness. I normally rate things on the 5-star level. So I'd give this one 2. So I guess you double everything. I give it a 4 out of 10. Then that seems too high. Because I might pull out a 4 every once in a while, you know? Maybe 3. Can we do points? 3.7.
I would give it, if I'm giving something like Rainbow Rising, would be like a 9 out of 10, you know, like maybe 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Long Live Rock and Roll, like 9 out of 10. The Joe Lynn Turner albums in general, I wouldn't say that they're a fail. So I would give them higher than a 5, just because the artwork's cool, the packaging's cool, the production's good, the performances are technically good. Like I can't pick apart too much of that stuff. But just to barely pass, I would probably give this album a 6, because it's not the worst thing I've ever heard, and there are redeemable things about it, I guess. I'd probably give Straight Between the Eyes the highest out of the Joe Lynn Turner, maybe give it a 6.5 or 7. So that I would probably give this a 6.
Okay. Well, it's almost double me.
Yeah. Just because if I gave it less than a 5, I'd be calling it a fail. And I don't think it fails. It just doesn't do anything for me. So for me, it'd be a 5 or a 6. So maybe I'll give it a 5.5. So
I think it fails. That's the semester.
As a Rainbow album, you know what? As a Rainbow album, yeah, I agree with you. For me, it fails. Yeah, I give it okay. On that basis, I'd give it a 4. There you go. I just went from a 6 to a 4. So,
on the fly, we're making decisions here, folks.
Yeah. All right. I guess other than that, thanks for joining us today.
Sure. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah. If you want your voice heard, go over to Patreon. We do polls and we'll incorporate your comments in these videos. We also do panel discussions with our Patreon folks. So we have that going. We also have a Ko-Fi account. So if you want to donate there, because if you don't want to subscribe every month on a monthly basis, we have the Ko-Fi thing. Also, if you just want to like and subscribe to our channel in general, if you just kind of dig what we do and like listening to us talk, is there anything that you want to plug or anything you got going on?
I have nothing to plug at the moment. No, cool. Nothing. I'm going to relax for the holidays, take some time off, no homework, no notes to take, just chill.
All right. Well, I guess other than that, we'll...
we got something tonight though, don't we?
That's right. We do have a panel discussion tonight. So that's going to come out, and that's Odd One Out. So that's we're each picking a band that if you, based on everything we listen to, is kind of like an odd one out. Like if Tony Orlando and Dawn would be a good example. If you're listening to like, you know, the big four, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and then you listen to Tony Orlando and Dawn, that would be an odd one out choice. So yeah, that's what we're doing tonight. So yeah, cool. Thanks for joining us, Jimmy.
All right. Take care, everyone.
See y'all next time.
That's it, dude.